So a few days ago, I made a video talking about the artificial grind and how power level is meaningless in Destiny 2, and it seems a lot of people really do not like the latest power grind that Bungie has introduced in Edge of Fate, and for good reason. It's a completely pointless grind with no purpose other than to inflate player attention. But today, we are going to be talking about another topic that I've wanted to speak about for a while, and that is artificial difficulty. I will get into my own definition of artificial difficulty and discuss options that are much more fun than just increasing the amount of hits it takes to kill something, but for the context of artificial difficulty in Edge of Fate, I will pass it over to Mr. Gaming Counselor because he has actually played Mythic difficulty. Also, he is a Destiny 2 YouTuber, so go drop him a subscribe and stuff. Anyways, here's what he has to say.
Bungie doesn't mess around with cranking up. I don't know what is this expansion. Even Mythic mode has the same problem where they think difficulty is let's crank everything's health up and make them a sponge. Like, that's not difficult. Like, it's difficult in the sense that it's just artificial big number. That's it. Like, and people don't like that. I mean, sure, there's like maybe 1% of the percent of people that are like, oh my God, this is so great. I get to use, Outbreak perfected and sit in a corner and keep pecking at the boss over and over and over for 3 hours. And then finally it dies. And I'm so excited because that's literally Mythic experience, is literally sitting in the corner with some gun that has infinite ammo. And you're just safely shooting the boss as quickly as possible to finish. It's not really fun. Don't solo Mythic. Just find some friends to suffer with you.
So I think we can all agree that having to expend all your special and heavy ammo into a couple enemies is not fun game design. Conversely, having infinite consecrations to nuke everything on the field is also not fun game design. People want to be challenged in video games, but challenged meaningfully. I beat Sekiro 5 times when I played it in March, and the joy from that game came from the mastery of the combat. The combat in that game is honestly so well tuned. It's unforgiving, sure, you will die a shit ton, but if you master the combat, you can smoke every enemy within minutes. Fights that may have taken me 10 to 15 minutes, top players can beat in just a few because of the way the posture bar works. You can kill an enemy by depleting its health bar, which takes a very long time, or by breaking their posture, which can be done with dealing damage and parrying all their attacks. If you can parry every hit, then the posture bar will fill extremely quickly. So there is a skill gap, and you are rewarded for mastering its combat. Let's look at another game, Clair Obscure Expedition 33. Spoiler warnings, but I will be showing the final endgame boss fight. Anyways, you have to learn Simon's attacks to beat him. There's no way around that. And the first time I beat him, my level was in the mid to high 80s. The second time around, I faced him at level 99, and while I still needed the skill to block his attacks, my characters were outputting so much more damage that I just had to parry less of his attacks. In Elden Ring, sure, you can do insane challenges like level 1 final boss and you whittle him down as slowly as possible, which is what Mythic difficulty looks like, but at the same time, you can make a crazy build and damn near delete bosses if you level your character up and use the resources that the game gives you to make a super powerful build. Again, the fights don't get any easier, you still have to learn the attack windows and when to dodge attacks, but you can make the fight progress so much quicker. The game gives you ways to make it more forgiving. It seems that balance has not been reached in Destiny, not in Mythic missions anyways. It sounds like everything is just a boring bullet sponge, and you get one shot if you take damage. That being said, Destiny does have ways to mitigate damage. You can build into damage resistance. You can also make ability-centric builds which help supplement your total damage output. OG Starfire Protocol was great for this as you had near infinite fusion grenades. But as the sandbox keeps expanding, it continues to separate the haves from the have-nots. Yes, top players like Giggs and Salted Greppo can smoke minus 50 content with ease because they are highly skilled and they have a deep knowledge of the sandbox so that they can leverage everything that the game offers them to overcome that challenge. But even then, I think just inflating the health pools of the enemies is lazy game design. I'm not saying Bungie can't design content like this, it just seems that they missed the mark in this case. They just have number get bigger bosses and that's very boring. People don't want to sit back and plink away with Outbreak Perfected or a bugged third iteration. They want to spam their abilities and take out loads of enemies to feel that power fantasy that makes Destiny 2 great. I love this meme. It says, "Looking for hard game. Ask GameStop cashier if the difficulty is mechanics or numbers. She doesn't understand. I pull out illustrated diagram explaining what is mechanics or what is numbers. She laughs and says, it's a hard game, sir. Buy game, it's numbers." It's funny because it really illustrates that people want to be challenged in games, just not boring challenge. They want engaging challenge. Here's a clip from SkillUp playing Dragon Age the Veilguard showing what I mean.
Early in the game, I was level 10, this thing was level 25. I would not be level 25 for another 15 hours So that's how challenging this encounter was meant to be. Despite this, I did this encounter without dying and without a healer in my party. I just grinded him down because his moveset was so basic, so limited, and so easy to counter that all it took was time. And that's all the combat ever takes, because enemies are so spongy. And like I said, I've never done this before, but at the 40-hour mark, I took the advice of a friend who lowered the difficulty to the lowest setting just because they were so over it. And I cannot tell you how much better this experience was when I did that.
So he talks about the challenge of the fight only taking time. It wasn't difficult or anything, just slow and monotonous, which is exactly what hiding with a scout rifle plinking away at enemies is. Here's another clip from where he talks about the combat in Avowed.
It's just straight stats, but more importantly, pushing your weapons and armor into new tiers negates the crippling level gating that the game has baked into its combat. Long story short, there are 5 power tiers in this game, and if I'm fighting a tier 2 enemy with a tier 1 wand, I'll be doing 35% less damage to that enemy, and I will take 35% more damage from them. When this level gating differential is applied, combat feels much more challenging because I die faster, and to be honest with you, I kinda like that. But it's also much more challenging because enemies are so much more fucking spongy, and it takes forever to drop even basic enemies, and that part I did not like.
So he actually said that he liked being at a power differential, taking more damage while dealing less, but again, the enemies just felt overly spongy, which is not fun. So, how to correct this? Well, luckily, Bungie has a whole new modifier system in place in the game right now, and on top of that, they've proven they can make challenging combat before. So rather than making you super underpowered and have to hide and plink away, what can they do? Well, this first one is a favorite of mine, but some people don't like it. But you can put a timer in the activity. Timers are wonderful. Back in the day, I could beat normal presage with ease, but master presage or expert or whatever was a different story. The time allotted changed from version 1 to version 2 of presage, and I'm too lazy to go look at my solo runs to see what was what. But the point is, the timer demanded proficiency. Sure, you could sit back and plink away at the enemies or the boss, but then you were never going to beat the activity in the time allotted. I remember playing Super Mario Wonder, and the hardest level in the game required super tight timing to beat it. This is fun difficulty. You get a little closer each time and you progress a little further until eventually you beat the mission. OG Nightfalls and Destiny 2 had a timer system. It was a little annoying because you had to shoot things in the sky to extend that timer, which I didn't like because I don't like finding things, but still, it gave you a time limit. So even if the enemies weren't super deadly or hard to kill, it made you have to push to be as proficient as you can. So rather than Mythic just setting you at -50 and making you take an hour to beat it with the most unengaging combat imaginable, it should have a tight time limit. You could even have the tier rewards tied to that. I don't know all the levels in the new system, but say Ultimate was like beat it in 15 minutes and you get tier 5s. Mythic is 18 minutes and you get tier 4s. Master or Expert or whatever is next is 25 minutes for tier 3s. The less skilled players are only going to reach tier 3 rewards, while the super skilled players will get rewarded with tier 5s. Hot take, but these insane players like Special Hero and Sutek should be rewarded for their mastery of the game. If they can get tier 5 rewards as soon as the content releases because they have dedicated thousands of hours to the game and mastering the sandbox, then they deserve those rewards. Quit time gating people's rewards. I saw a great tweet that said something along the lines of this: players want to farm, not grind. And it's so true. There isn't a single player that wants to be grinding Encore. They're doing it out of necessity so that they can then farm the actual tier 5 loot that they want. And it's just so frustrating because by the time players actually reach power 450 or whatever it is to farm the best loot, they will be burnt out and not care about farming the loot anyways. That bullshit power grind will have killed the desire to farm. The hardcores will farm either way, but again, they should be being rewarded now. But side tangent about artificial grind aside, let's get back to artificial difficulty. If you don't like my timer option, here's another one. Modifiers, which Bungie has in the game already. Again, rather than making everything a bullet sponge, just allow you to add modifiers to get the best gear. Fill the activity with a bunch of champions or banes. It will increase combat difficulty, but that difficulty is much more engaging than just plinking away on a meaty boss for 10 minutes. That is not fun for anyone. You can have a glass cannon modifier, or a no HUD modifier, or a locked loadout modifier. You can do all these other things that simultaneously make the activity more engaging, while also rewarding the players for challenging themselves. The power delta is literally the laziest game design you can do. Yes, there are Elden Ring players who can do some insane challenges at level 1, but most players don't want to do that. If you are one of those though, Have the power delta as a modifier. If you don't care about your time, but you found a cheese spot and you want to relive the Valista Arc days of plinking away while hidden behind a tank till the boss finally dies to get tier 5 rewards, do that then.
A no-brainer. Towards the end, I really just got sick of Valis. He is such a bullet sponge. I can't wait for them to actually reduce his health by a third like they said they're going to do. I'm really looking forward to that.
Esoteric and Chablo have done minus 99 Grandmasters just for the fun of it. Let that be a thing as well. Point is, they have a bunch of these systems in place, so there are many ways they can design the combat to still be challenging without having to make you deal 0 damage to bosses and mini-bosses. The problem, as always, comes to them trying to control how the players play. Clair Obscure and Elden Ring give players a massive sandbox that they can leverage to break the game, and those developers don't step in to nerf those things. They are put in the game intentionally, aside from the Mael nuke, but that was too brain-dead easy and needed to be nerfed. I'm talking about true build crafting and deep knowledge of the sandbox to break the game, not just 3 pictos and an ability. But the point is, by and large, they don't limit what you can do. Bungie limits you as much as they can to drive player attention. Why do they have Mythic in the game at minus 50 anyways, and why does power level dictate the rewards that you get? Again, they have this awesome new system with all these modifiers, so that should be what determines the tier of your loot drops. If you throw on every difficult modifier and still beat the content, then you earned that tier 5 reward. And as I said, for the people who can't get through the activity fast enough or beat the activity with no HUD and without dying and Bane's cranked up to 11, then that's fine. They will tailor the activity to meet their skill bracket. They will earn comparable rewards for how hard that difficulty is. Ideally, the game is balanced well enough that those rewards improve their stats a little bit, which would then allow them to refine and perfect their builds, and then they can challenge themselves a little further. Like I said, the hardcores who are already good enough to beat that content, they shouldn't be held back. They earned the right to that gear by being good at the game. Just like how SkillUp was able to beat that boss at level 10 when it was level 25, or these players who speedrun Sekiro or Elden Ring, they should be able to beat the game quickly because they are skilled enough, not be held back by an arbitrary number. Oh, and it's also funny how Bungie health gates every single boss in existence now. Again, if a player can leverage your sandbox well enough to nuke a boss in 1 or 2 hits, let them. Let good players express their skill and beat content quickly and get showered in loot.
Once you're out of the God Mode zone, you reach the now I have to look at the screen segment of progression, which is dangerously close to the no matter what I do, these enemies are bullet sponges, fuck this shit, I'm only doing activities where I can speedrun past the ads to nuke the boss segment of progression. Be careful though, if you're too good at this, keep it to yourself. You wouldn't want to alert Bungie that you're not interested in spending 40 minutes on something that doesn't entertain you to get an arbitrary power level requirement to play the fun and rewarding activities. They'll put a stop to that shit with a swiftness.
I can't stress this enough. You should be rewarded for your skill. And if you are rewarded for it, that actually gives incentive to play the game more. It's like, hey, if I get better at the game, then I can farm the better gear. And if I get even better, I can get that better gear more quickly. That is your incentive. It's just funny because the game used to be built on replayability at a fundamental level. We played PvP just because it was fun. I had hundreds of hours in PvP with my friends in the early days, and then I would do solo challenges just to push myself. I did that with no reward in mind other than the will to get better. Now, Bungie has given no incentive to improve, and the game has become less replayable as a result. So now they have to manipulate the activities to keep you playing as long as possible, rather than just making the activities fun enough that people want to play them as much as possible. Anyways, I hope this video did a good job of describing the difference between fun difficulty and artificial difficulty. Sound off in the comments and all that, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.